Because you see them as they are, you offer them your acceptance of their truth so they can accept it for themselves.
And I just, because of the New Age lingo, where everyone speaks about everyone having their truth, as though each one has a private, different perception that is true. This really means because you see them as they are, you offer them your acceptance of the truth about them that is so obvious to you. Not a truth that's their possession, but the reality of them that you're no longer confused about. So they can accept it for themselves. Continue.
This is the healing that the miracle induces.
Indeed.
Is this why we can't wake up alone? Because we need another one to see our truth when we haven't seen it?
Well, what are you being healed of? You're being healed of the idea that you can be alone. And so, absolutely, you can't wake up alone because being asleep is the problem of being alone. And the way you break that problem, the way you destroy that illusion, is by breaking the isolation. Absolutely. Okay.
Perception versus knowledge. We have been emphasizing perception and have said very little about knowledge as yet. This is because perception must be straightened out before you can know anything.
And actually the word know is the key word, before you can know anything. Continue.
To know is to be certain. Uncertainty means that you do not know. Knowledge is power because it is certain, and certainty is strength.
So knowledge is the clear experience of unequivocal truth.
Perception is temporary. As an attribute of the belief in space and time, it is subject to either fear or love. Misperceptions produce fear, and true perceptions foster love, but neither brings certainty because all perception varies. That is why it is not knowledge. True perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth and beyond all perceptions.
Indeed. Now, again, I'd like to make a clarification. You think of knowledge as an acquired body of information. And that is not what is meant here. Knowledge is what you specifically know when truth is not hidden from you. And it isn't something that you deposit in your memory banks. You do not move along experiencing truth now, and another truth now, and another truth now, and store these bits of information in memory to draw upon. Come with me for a moment on an inner visual journey. You are awake, and all of infinity and all of creation that fills it is consciously present in your awareness. No part of it is beyond your presence of mind. Now, you can move through it if you wish, as though you were going through space. And just for purpose of illustration, we'll say that you start out from planet Earth. And as you leave planet Earth, you are specifically and with more focus aware of all that it is and all that is truth about it. And as you move toward Mars, your attention begins to shift toward your destination. And more specifically, you become aware of Mars. And less are you specifically, with a high degree of focus, aware of Earth, even though everything about it is still present as part of your consciousness. When you arrive at Mars, you can be aware of the truth, the meaning of every little grain of sand. If you shift your attention just like that back to Earth, you can do the same thing with the grains of sand on the beach. Now, my point is this: that knowledge is the direct, present experience of truth. When it is needed. Even though you are never unconscious of the truth of any aspect of the infinitude of creation. You do not need to store the knowing of truth away for future use. You can know the truth at any moment by asking what truth is. And at any moment you can know the truth without ever having to search your memory banks. And that's my point. My point is, do not study this course. Do not desire to know the truth so that you can engage in a lifelong habit of storing bits of information away for future use. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And you will know the truth by being fully present in the moment with the specifics of creation that are in your face at the moment, so that the direct experience of the truth of it can be experienced and thereby be the non-existence of any confusion about it. And you might say, the next time you're back at this place, you will be present in the moment with it so that you might experience the truth of it, know the truth of it, and thereby you could say have knowledge of it, but it's a living knowledge, not a stored knowledge. I want you to catch the feeling of being in the flow of knowing, always, and beginning to be willing to abandon the high regard you give to and the use you put to memory. Okay. Continue.
All your difficulties stem from the fact that you do not recognize yourself, your brother, or God. To recognize means to know again, implying that you knew before.
In other words, recognize, to cognize again. Continue.
You can see in many ways because perception involves interpretation, and this means that it is not whole or consistent. The miracle, being a way of perceiving, is not knowledge. It is the right answer to a question, but you do not question when you know. Questioning illusions is the first step in undoing them. The miracle, or the right answer, corrects them. Since perceptions change, their dependence on time is obvious. But you perceive at any given time. How you perceive at any given time determines what you do, and actions must occur in time. Knowledge is timeless, because certainty is not questionable. You know when you have ceased to ask questions.
You know when you have ceased to ask questions.
Truth and knowledge are subjective experiences.
All being is subjective. All being is subjective.
Yes.
You will find that I use the word knowing a lot. And I use it in the way that knowledge is used here. Knowing is a direct experience of truth. There is a sneaky style that the ego is employing in this day and age, a way of avoiding looking at what needs to be looked at. If a statement is made, the person bound by their ego says, well, that's just your perception, meaning I don't have to pay any attention to it. But you know what? There's something more than perception available to you. And if you have listened so that you know the truth and you express it, And another person says, well, that's just your perception. Avoid getting entangled with them in arguing about whether it's a perception or whether it's knowledge. Because the point is that the answer lies beyond perception. And whoever the truth has been spoken to needs to abandon the avoidance technique of saying that's just your perception and replace it with a desire to know what the immutable truth is, the unchanging truth is, because there is something real going on, and to live in perceptions is insanity. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Truth and knowledge, when we abandon it and identify with perceptions, we are, in fact, going from a fourth dimensional experience back to a third dimension where we're looking out there, outside of our subjective experience, and we, in that moment, do not know the truth. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
You are ignorant of the truth about something that is real. And so the focus needs to come back to the fact that there's always something real about which you're having a misperception, and a willingness to abandon the misperception because there's a desire to protect truth by being conscious only of it and abiding by that commitment. You abandon the perception and become open, if you have innocent ears or innocent eyes, to the direct experience of truth or knowledge or knowing with a capital K. Okay.
Which is back in the subjective experience.
Absolutely.
And which accompanies, which you know when you're there because you feel a complete sense of love and peace with it, with the knowing.
Yes, except that it doesn't feel subjective. Subjective, the word subjective suggests somehow intangible and perhaps unreal, but the experience is a direct experience of truth, and therefore the direct experience of the reality of it. And so in many ways it will feel like what you call objective, but infinitely more so. Okay.
The questioning mind perceives itself in time and therefore looks for future answers. The closed mind believes the future and the present will be the same. This establishes a seemingly stable state that is usually an attempt to counteract an underlying fear that the future will be worse than the present. This fear inhibits the tendency to question at all.
Indeed. Nothing difficult to understand there.
True vision is the natural perception of spiritual sight, but it is still a correction rather than a fact. Spiritual sight is symbolic, and therefore not a device for knowing. It is, however, a means of right perception, which brings it into the proper domain of the miracle. A vision of God would be a miracle rather than a revelation. The fact that perception is involved at all removes the experience from the realm of knowledge. That is why visions, however holy, do not last.
Indeed. Spiritual sight is a gift that sets the mind in the right direction, that causes one, let us say, to turn around toward the altar, to desire to know something more than is known, and to feel the impulse to turn to where the answer can be received.
Please clarify just a little bit there. That spot you're talking about.
I mean the altar.
Yeah, but it brings you into a state of mind where say that again, please. I think I'm almost there.
Spiritual vision is always accompanied with an experience of meaning, an experience of holiness, an experience of that which is obviously not a normal part of your daily life. As a result, it not only causes you to become curious, it causes you to know where to look to have the curiosity satisfied. Because when you're uninspired and in the ego place and you have a question, you always look to memory. You always look in the wrong place to find the answer. But spiritual vision has an accompaniment to it that, by virtue of its divinity, its obvious divinity, causes you to become curious about divine things, which causes you to turn toward a divine source. You might call it God. But the fact is that even in calling it God, you're turning back toward the altar. You're turning to where the answer can come from that satisfies the question.
These are my first experiences of the freedom and the joy.
What are?
These visions, this place where I have an inkling and it's different. And it's the freedom and then the little bit of joy, and that's where the indignation for the bondage is coming, because I know now that there's these little experiences, I know that there's a way out, and the absurdity of being held by nothing that makes any sense. I've touched these spots some.
I'm glad you referred to them as a first slight taste of joy, because joy in its fullness comes when the answer is given and knowing is being experienced. And then joy, uninhibited, courses through your very being. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, don't become satisfied with the first few tastes of joy, the intimation of real joy that comes from the spiritual insights. That's not the ultimate, guys. Keep looking to where the answer is that satisfies the question.
In that unexpected place.
Yes, even if as the answer comes forth, you experience feeling more and more joy. Stay the course until you arrive at the fullness of joy that comes from knowing and not a perception, a hint of joy. You see? Okay. We have a question here.
Is it, I take it then it's not necessary to be fully awake to have knowledge, to have a...
Absolutely not.
Okay. So, and knowledge is like, you say things like, I don't know how I knew it, but I just knew it. I could feel it all the way down the tips of my toes. I just knew it. Is that...
No, when you know something, you don't talk about having known it. You just be in the knowing of it, and you be in a new way, but you don't talk about knowing.
So like when it goes...
It's like looking at Ken over there and saying, wow, my eyes are sure doing a good job of seeing. You see what I'm saying? You say, hi, Ken.
But if you usually wear glasses and then you look at Ken and you can see him in perfect focus and then you realize that you don't have your glasses on and then everything goes fuzzy again, you go, wow, I could see him perfectly clear without my glasses. That's the kind of thing I was referring to.
No. When knowing occurs, the experience of knowing takes precedence over any levels of perception you had prior.
So you can't reflect on it, though? I mean, you can't look back and say, I knew it?
Knowing is a now, a present experience, and it causes one to find the past to be irrelevant and gives you a direct experience of the fact that there is no past or future and that any past or future you conceived of was an illusion and therefore not worth any comment or conversation whatsoever in light of the fullness of knowing, which you can't help but let govern the way you're being in the moment. It moves you out of time.
So you recognize the illusion of time.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and then a question about vision. I had an experience where it was like my field of vision parted, and then I could look past my normal way of seeing, and I saw everything phosphorescing or colors streaming, colored energy streaming off of everything that I looked at, and then that disappeared. Is that what you meant? What it talks about is vision and why vision can't last or doesn't last?
Oh, that is perception. Perception can't last, no matter how inspired it is. But once again, it points you in the right direction.